My name is George Edward Snow. I'm 102 years old. I was born at Milson's Point, Sydney, near the swimming pool. My mum, Edith, like most mothers, they're pretty loving people, and she was a lovely person. And father, Alfred was an engineer with the government railways at Redfern. Two sisters, Jessie and Mari. After 12 months after my birth, they decided, I don't know for why, to move to Wentworthville, Darcy Road, Wentworthville, and that's where we lived, including myself, for the rest of our lives. There was depression on those early days of my life, and you realise when you're older that they no doubt denied themselves things so that we didn't go hungry, because we never noticed that this situation was there, because we seemed to have enough to eat. But I understand that went on because there was only a certain allowance to people for food, for the money for food. I know my grandmother made a lovely apple pie. I can't describe it in the mouth, but it was a beautiful apple pie for us. It was quite an event to visit them because they went out of their way to sort of give us nice food and entertain us and call my cousin over so we can sort of play together. My grandfather, he built us a radio, because in those days it was like a big box, like all these valves sticking up out of it. We would have been the only ones with the wireless in the street at that time. I think my mother, of course, being there during the day, would probably listen to some of these stories that they had going on and on forever, sort of thing. It was quite an event to have a wireless anyway. It really started when I was 9. So we organised even to be in a cricket competition. We used to play on Wentworthville Oval there, which is still the Oval, the cricket Oval. And anyway, they said, you'll have some away games, what are you going to do? And fortunately, two of our boys, their father had a big car, and he was like a taxi man at Wenny Station. It was an American car he had. It was a bit bigger than normal. And of course he said, I'll take you away. Now we had 11 boys, one girl, one chap's sisters was a scorer. We had the driver, Mr. Kelly. And cricket gear was on chrome bars on the back of the car. And away we went with 13 people in the car. Now in those days you put your hand to the right to turn right and your hand up right out the window to stop. It must have been interesting to see it going around. I went to Wentworthville School, and what did we do? We got to 6th class there. So 6th class, then I went to Parramatta Intermediate near the station there. That's cool. I did 3 years there, and I thought, I'm going to get a job. So I walked down the street there at Parramatta. Murray Brothers, of course, stood out, and I walked in there anyway and saw the chap that engages the staff. He gave me a job straight away. And on the menswear, as a salesman, of course, when you're there at 15, you're the boy that sweeps the floor, tidies up, got rid of the rubbish, does all the job. Anyway, I was with them completely for 43 years. And they had the deliberate intention to promote their own staff, not to bring them from outside, unless there was something special. There's a couple of ladies' departments. You needed someone that really had experience and knew what they were talking about, so that they could settle these things for women, particularly. And so then they made me a manager of a department to start off with. Actually, it was floor coverings, and then they made me buyer. We go to Sydney, buy all the stuff, where it is. So I get a call from our manager to say, we'd like you to go and manage a store in Cootamundra. You know, you say, Cootamundra? Where's Cootamundra? That's where Don Bradford was born. One of the staff members, who was a very progressive young man, and as he got older, he's really good because they picked him out to manage the store. He said, now, you've got to ask your wife, is she happy to go? You know, all this, they didn't all good, you know. She's happy to go because you'll be going holus-bolus. I was there for 6 years, and it was 6 years, and they said, now, look, we'd like you to go and manage a shop in, or manage a department for a start, in Canberra. It was owned by a family, Murray Brothers, and their grandfather came out 100 years ago, and of course he had three boys. So one of those boys was the managing director in the first instance. He decided he didn't want to work anymore, so he decided to close the shop down. I was actually called up, this is 1941, I think it is, 1941. So I decided, like a lot of others, that we would join up. I decided to go into the artillery one, and in 1945, our unit, a lot of us, it was a big show, a dawn landing at May the 1st in Borneo. It's Borneo's made up of land and islands all around it, and this was an island called Tarakan. I was the sergeant in charge of a 25-pounder gun and the crew, and there were similar ones like that. There's about 8 in the unit, 2 lots of 4, and we're on special boats with landing gear. They have these things that drop down, big drop down, get right up, or they'd have to have some sort of planking, I call them planks, that the wheels could run on to get them off. And if you've got enough people there, you can manhandle them. They pick up speed, turn the engine off, and they're supposed to float in on their own momentum sort of thing, in as far as they can go. So at dawn, we landed there, lock, stock and barrel, guns firing in all directions, and the firing might be every 10 seconds. So sometimes they do that, repeated firing, and everyone's got to be there putting these shells into the gun to fire it on time. We were firing at 200 yards in front of us. The only thing, there was a sniper, we couldn't be 2 snipers in the area, because they're there at any time. They're trying to pick up with the gun, pick up someone if they can sight them. We live with the gun. We beside the guns, and I can't remember now whether I had a stretcher, because we'd never change clothes. So we must have, well, you got to be, because they're only, some of them were about 200 yards in front of us, and so you had to be alert all the time. So I suppose we would have had people on awake all the time in shifts, Strangely enough, I wasn't a bit scared. I suppose it is there, though, in you. If someone all of a sudden was in front of you, immediately in front of you with a gun trying to shoot you, but apart from this chap that was in a tree somewhere, we sort of disregarded him. So I think when you've got something to do, you're so occupied in doing it and getting it done right on time, that it went out of your mind. The Japanese were overcome in due course, and we just stayed there till the end of the war. Then we were taken back to Sydney with a British aircraft carrier, a huge boat, and it was quite funny because they had stretchers with white sheets and pillows, which we'd never seen for a while. and took us back to Sydney because there's nothing better than me laying off the heads there at 5 o'clock in the morning. And of course, everyone knows we're coming, and the wife and I'd been married, of course, during the war, and to greet us home. Oh dear, that's a good one. Well, it probably would have been that night that I took Kath home from that dance. Yeah, that would have been it, I'd say. Her name was Kathleen Kirk. Actually, she lives in Westmead too, so it's a fair walk. You don't notice the time when you got someone like that. It's a love, you know. There was something about her, and I had seen her many times walking around. I don't think I had the opportunity to actually speak at those occasions because I was looking at her as she was at lunch, and I don't think I'd actually formally met her. They used to hold dances at the Masonic Hall in Wentworthville, Darfield Street. We used to go as a group there because some of the girls we had to walk them home in those days. That's where I met her for the first time. I said to myself, I'm going to marry you. That's how nice she looked. She was a good dresser. I was neat. Well, they had to be fairly neat working the shops. But she was just neat. There's just something about her. And actually, it's a funny thing, you know. I was 18. I don't think I'd ever taken a girl out, even though we've taken some of these girls home. Because I suppose you look at girls and there's different girls, you know, and, you know, we're all friends of that. But when you come to marriage, it's a bit different, isn't it? I was married in 1942, and we were together for 66 years. And it was wonderful. We had a wonderful life. Well, you love them and support them and in every way possible, really. I'm just trying to think of things you do, you know, 24 hours a day. So, and we were lucky that way, and we did a lot of trips together, which I can tell you about later. But yes, I think, well, feeling for each other in the maximum way, you can't do better than that, can you? But you shall always be remembered forever and ever and ever, because she was that sort of a person, really, yes.